that's kind of why I wanted to run this project. Especially, I want to have a conversation with you because I feel that there's been so many times from going out surfing to when you went overseas and came back where we've just sat down and just kind of like we've been on the same mental wavelength and had these conversations that just like help each of us in life, you know? And I'm very happy that I have someone like you in my life that I can do that with because I've been in times of my life where I don't have that, you know? And it's so helpful because sometimes you feel like you're alone, like no one else is thinking this shit. Like it's just me by myself dealing with it. And I think it's important for other people to know that there's people that are feeling these things, what it is that people go through, and just like the real humanistic side of just life, you know, not just going through the fucking motions, but like experiencing things, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. And I feel like sometimes, people's feelings of anxiety or shit, or even like, you know, a little bit more extreme, especially with like social media and like how people like portray themselves. Like no one really sees like the fucking negative side of shit. It's
Or the
always this,
inside, like social media, you can
right?
be the happiest motherfucker on earth, but on the inside, like you're dying, you know? And so
Yeah,
that's why I think it's important to not just, again, that's why I'm saying like this is 15 minutes with the mask off. Like take that off and like let's talk about what like actual experience is, what it is that people are going through, you know?
mm-hmm.
So, with that said, I know that there's people that are going to watch this that are friends of ours, but I also expect people to watch this that don't know us at all. So, if you could
Mm-hmm.
just tell me a little bit about yourself and who you are and where you're at in life right now, that would be wonderful to start us off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my name is Nick Predite. I'm 30 years old. I live in Solvang, California. I run a barbecue business with my business partner Brendan Dwan. We work under Companion Hospitality, which involves Bell's Restaurant in Los Alamos and Bar La Cote in Los Olivos. Um, I, I, I'm in a position now where I'm pursuing a passion, and that came from a lot of trial and error and a lot of ups and downs. Um, I have an undergraduate at UCSB. Um, yeah, I've I found myself in a professional position that I've dreamed of being in, but didn't realize that I would get here in the way that I did. Manny and I met probably like 8, 9, 10 years ago, working in restaurants together, but we kind of formed a really good bond out surfing and particularly at boxing. And in those times, we'd have some pretty deep conversation about our lives and our kind of just general concepts of ourselves and others, and just kind of some more like existential conversations and some pretty big conversations that I was trying to have with myself, but I just couldn't have I didn't have the proper vocabulary, nor I don't think I had I wasn't able to like wrap my head around the complex ideas until we started having those conversations about 8 years ago. So yeah, that's a little bit about who I am and why I'm here talking to you.
Perfect.
But
Thank you.
yeah.
My name is Manny Raya, born in Santa Barbara, raised in Mexico for the first 7 years of my life. uh Grew up in gang culture, and then things kind of took a shift and I got into education, Santa Barbara City College, UCSB, San Francisco State, and now I'm pursuing my PhD and I'm super close to getting that thing. I run and operate a boxing gym here in town, and like Nick said, together we have these amazing conversations that are just helpful in life. And I think based off of what he just said and what I just said, you can understand that like we've gone through things in different ways, but we've been in positions where people would deem us successful, right? And so that's the topic of today that I wanted to pursue. And so Nick, my first question for you was, how was success modeled for you when you were a kid? Like, what was your vision of success? What was communicated as successful to you, or where did you get a notion of success?
Well, I feel like that came from two different directions. My father was a second generation carpenter, a pretty humble guy. Um, he had parents that immigrated here from Europe. So for me, like in terms of success in his life was stability and working for yourself and some sort of a financial base. Obviously, some ability to um, supply and care for your fam. My mom, on the other hand, is a little bit more ambitious. She herself has a master's degree. She was a triathlete. Um, was just a very ambitious person. So for her, success was a little bit different, different definition. Um, didn't necessarily, it wasn't necessarily a binary thing. It was more so how far you could push yourself and how much you believed in yourself. So between the two, one's a little bit more like pragmatic and practical. The other one is a little bit more kind of I guess natural and kind of like abstract, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I'd say for me, my mom is a housekeeper and we come from abject poverty. So success for me was just you get back what you put in. My mom was always about like, if you work for something, like you'll get the results. And in conversations with you, I think when talking about sports and talking about boxing, what we appreciate is like people that put in the work, you know, no matter what it is, if you put in the work, the results are going to show, your efforts are going to show in one way or another. And so I didn't realize it then, but that's kind of how I've taken success. And that's how I've found success in my life is just like, if I put in the work, I just close my eyes, put my head down and go. I know that something positive will come out of that. Now, with that, comes impediments to success and things that get in the way of bringing all your dreams and life goals to fruition. So when it comes to you, what would you say your biggest impediment to success is?
Myself, and I think it always will be, because sometimes, at least for me, like you just kind of overthink about what's like what could get in your way. You know what I mean? You think about the impediments and then realize that you're the one that becomes the impediment. So, and I've been kind of looking at that a lot more critically now, especially with having a lot more support in my current project from people that I love and people that care about me. And that's offered me a little bit more of a base to like kind of like shed those fears and look a little bit more straightforward and clear at not necessarily a goal, but just at the ability of moving ahead fearlessly and not really taking into consideration like what could go wrong and just having faith and trust in what you're doing at that moment.
It's crazy that, again, like it's crazy that you say that because like that's exactly my answer. And it's just, I know if I work hard, like I can accomplish what I put my mind to. Like if I grind, I'm gonna get what it is that I want to achieve in life. But I find that I get in my own way and I am my biggest impediment towards success. And you know, I listen to a lot of Nipsey Hussle. I watch a lot of his interviews, and I saw an interview the other day. It tripped me out what he said, and he said it's crazy to think that when you're a kid in gang environment and you're going to another neighborhood to go look for someone, as you're driving, you might pass this white kid that looks like a square, like nothing like you, boom, keep going. You know, you pass this average school kid, boom, keep going. But when you see someone and they hold the same stature as yourself, they got their head shaved like yourself, but they look exactly like you, that's that motherfucker that you're going to go out and attack. And it's not just in the gang life. It's just like, it's always been me versus myself. And I've always gone through things the hard way and I'm fucking sick of it. I'm, it takes experience, it takes learning, but it's just like, it's always me in my way. And I'm trying to get past that. I'm trying to get beyond that. And I think that comes with life. And I think that comes with experience, but it's like, it's not something that someone ever told me. It's just like, deal with yourself, work with yourself. I think right now, mental health is such a big thing in conversation, but I don't think it was as much when we were growing up. And so there is some type of generational difference between you and I, but it baffles me again how we always come back to that same spot.
Yeah, and I mean, generational to a degree, but at the same time, I feel like there is also like just a general like depth and understanding of like the world around us, where we can kind of have a somewhat of a level playing field. Granted, I'm not at the fucking PhD level, um, but you know, I like to sit and think and read and try and figure out like what it's all worth, you know. So, um, yeah, yeah, it's it's a constant battle, right? Like making sure that you're not getting in your own way. But I think I've actually realized recently that a lot of that comes from not having, like, for me at least, not having like support. Like the minute you have support or like a foundation, like there's so much more opportunity. Not because there's more opportunity around you in your environment, because there's more opportunity within yourself to just let go and just, I keep saying, continue moving forward fearlessly. But that's kind of what it feels like, because you know that you're going to have something if you do take a hit and go down, that you'll
It's
be able to,
easy to feel alone. And when you
for
reach
sure.
out and you talk to people and you realize you're not alone and that there's people to help you through, it changes the game.
Yeah, and there's also, like, don't get me wrong, the past like 10 years, like I've, like, put it this way, my girl bought me a pair of sweats for the first time in like a year. Like I've never owned a pair of sweats, you know what I'm saying? And it, like, because I always took them to be synonymous with like being lazy. Like for me, leisure was lazy. um and I think for your point too is like, you know, there's like, sure, there's beauty in like the proverbial struggle, but there's also a degree where like you can pull yourself through the dirt. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be being pulled through the dirt.
Yeah.
And there's something to show for people who have managed to like overcome struggles and challenge things in front of them. But like, we don't need to be the self-inflicting kinds of people just to evoke something, some sort of narrative, like that we struggle, you know what I mean, that we struggle, because there's almost somewhat of a self-destructive point there where you think, oh, I need to struggle in order for me to succeed.
I
And that's
find that
not.
sometimes I'm scared of success. And that's kind of like I kind of self-sabotage just because I'm not used to that good feeling. It's just like I'm waiting for something to go wrong. So it's just like I'll self-sabotage before it fucking goes wrong because I
Again,
have a
but
hard
like,
time dealing with it.
yeah, but with like a solid support system, I feel like those feelings begin to lessen, because you'll have people to tell you like, look, man, you're good. You're not in the shit spot that you feel like you're in. So I've learned over the past like year or two that um, having a support group, or even just an individual behind you that can kind of be um, a little bit of a safety net when sometimes I used to slip off and think I need to be struggling, whether that means I limit myself from leisure time and fucking leisure wear, or that means that, you know, I do something the hard way. Yeah, I'm just becoming more clear-minded about working smarter and not harder, and that there is actually a difference between the two.
And so with that said, what do you think success is to you now? Like, how would you define success?
Uh, Man, now I would define it in terms of truth, and I guess in a little bit more of of like a description would be like, for me, success is being truthful to yourself. Like there's no wavering on what you're doing. There's no wavering in how you're behaving. There's no wavering in what you think about who you are. Like for me, ultimately, success is 100% truth with yourself, and that being an outbound projection of yourself. And like, it's funny because with that, and with like this real and honest approach to yourself, and that continues outward, like I honestly believe that success comes with that. So for me, success is found in truth.
And
And
again, like I agree with you 100%. It's just like I've had a title and not had my life in the right balance. So though people saw me as successful, inside I was broken. I've had a job with money where it's just like people would be like, oh, you have dough. Like that wasn't success to me. It's just like I was broken inside, and relationships that I had were broken. Like things just didn't work. They weren't working for me though. From the outside, people would be like, that's success. And I think finally, like within this last couple of years, like of trying to build myself within and be authentic with everything that I do and everything that I say and who it is that I am. It's just like I found that success is it's a feeling, because you can take all that shit away, but it's just like about how you feel about yourself, how it is that you represent yourself, how it is that you treat others is ultimately success for me. It's just like trying to figure out to the bare bones is like, who are you? What are you here for? What is your purpose? And living in accordance with that, I think that's success.
Yeah, 100%. It's not really like a certain denomination of money. It's not even like a certain pedigree or stature, like social stature. Like all that shit is great, but like that's not my goal. That's not my MO. That's not my prerogative. Like at the end of the day, I want to finish this fucking shit off, knowing that I did it 100. Like that fucking Frank Sinatra tune, man. That's my favorite closing karaoke song, My Way. And like, give it a listen, bro. I don't think a lot of people give that song the respect it deserves, because he keeps it pretty real in that one. And I think that kind of encapsulates what we're talking about now. It's like, you just gotta do it your way. Honestly, like it's like there's so much more freedom in that.
All right, so with a shout out to tell people to go listen to Frank Sinatra, that's where I'm gonna stop this recording. Do it your way. Word.
That's right.